Department. Nhlakanipho N-kon-twana, a very good evening to you and thank you for your time. Let's start with the figures because the figures look rather good. 1,900 of them have been dismissed. But there's organizations like the ISS that are questioning these figures. Let's take a look firstly at what they had to say.
I don't think they portray an accurate picture in my view. If you look at the recent figures released by the Public Service Commission, they actually point to corruption almost totaling 1 billion, almost 1 billion rand. I think there are other ways in which we can find what is happening in terms of corruption in the public sector. You can look at Auditor General's reports, we can look at Treasury reports, and Public Service Commission reports themselves. So to use anonymous tip-offs as a gauge of what is happening, I think is inaccurate. Corrupt people and those who are corrupted are not going to report corruption. And an anonymous hotline is really based on people who can, probably people who might be aggrieved, and that's why they're reporting corruption.
Alluding to the fact of underreporting there, how would you respond to that?
I think I understand what the gentleman is saying, but our view is that we get this information from our own departments, and our own people are involved in disciplining those who have been involved in misconduct. If they do have information, I think we'll appreciate if they can give us their own information. But where one is sitting, the information that we have is verified information and information that is credible, that we can use. That's why I use those figures to report to Parliament.
So in no way you think there could perhaps be a higher level of corruption happening or more cases?
We don't want to make assumptions on this one because corruption is a serious issue. But for one to say there is corruption, you must prove it. And this is what we're trying to deal with now at this point in time. That's why we're building our own capacity to investigate allegations of corruption in the public service.
Last week, the minister spoke about greedy, corrupt government officials. Is enough being done to root out this type of corruption?
Yes, we are putting systems in place to deal with that. I'm sure you have heard that the minister will be establishing what we call Anti-Corruption Bureau. And we are creating internal capacity in the public service and make sure that we do have investigative capabilities so that we can deal with this issue. Because some of the issues are very complex and majority of people who deal with discipline are just ordinary labor relations officers. And we just want to make sure that we have internal capacity to deal with it. And I think this is what we'll be doing this year, and next year we'll have a fully fledged agency solely just to deal with issues of corruption, fraud, and maladministration.
Will you be able to give us any sort of insight into how that agency will work? I'm asking that because is government taking any steps to make it easier for people to actually come out and report the corruption?
What we're going to do is that we're going to establish this agency, which will just be a component of the state, not only just a department on its part. It's just going to be a component of the state with people who are well trained to investigate, working closely with government departments, because the challenge that we have now is that there are quite a number of cases that are being reported, but we cannot prosecute because there's no capacity. I was told by my office that we have received almost 300 cases already of corruption, which this agency must deal with moving forward. All what we want to do is to create that capacity. Already this year, we want to train almost 200 people across the country just to make sure that we build that capacity, because it is our responsibility, especially at a management level, to institute discipline in the public service and root out those who are corrupt, who do not deserve to be on the system.
Now, we acknowledge that there's members of the public that want to bribe these officials. And how would you go about then changing that type of mindset? Because people believe almost that to get things done, they have to bribe a government official.
It's unfortunate that we have reached that level. But what we want to do is that we want to encourage ordinary members of society actually to report any activity of some sort. If they are asked to pay some money to report that to us. But at the same time, what we're going to do as the government is that if we do discover that a member of the community is involved, we'll make sure that that person is prosecuted. So we are going to make sure that we create awareness in the broader society, just for them to understand that corruption is bad in society. In fact, it disadvantages our people, especially the poor.
So will you be working with other government departments like Justice to look at laws and amending legislation possibly?
We already have what we call public admin management bill, used to be called single public service. We're busy with consultations. The closing date is the end of this month. We'll be taking that bill to Parliament. And in that bill, what we have captured there is the establishment of this bureau, which will be working closely with other agencies like SIU, like Hawks, because there are areas that will require prosecution, which is not our specialty, and that's the issue that will refer to Hawks and make sure that we work together. Of course, Department of Justice will play a key role because they are specialists when it comes to prosecution.
Thank you very much for your time. That was Director General of the Public Service and Administration Department, Nhlakanipho N-kon-twana.